You are nothing but a failure of a father. Every mistake I ever made is on you. If you had done your job right, I would be living like a real man today." Those words came out of my 28-year-old son's mouth like poison. They should have crushed me, but instead I felt something colder move in. It was not rage, not sadness, just a heavy numbness that made every sound and every detail in that hallway razor sharp. "I am sorry," I said quietly, my voice low, and I turned my back to him. Walking away, though, I knew the truth. Sometimes respect is not earned with patience or kindness. Sometimes it has to be taught in the hardest way possible, even if being the teacher tears your own heart apart. Before we continue, please subscribe to stay updated on our latest stories, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I was sitting at the Kitley table when it started. Papers spread out in front of me like the aftermath of a storm I kept pretending would pass on its own. Receipts, credit card slips, little reminders of a truth I did not want to face. Gas stations in towns I had not driven through. Restaurant tabs for dinners I never ate. Pairs of sneakers so expensive they made my stomach twist. Every one of them signed by the same hand, my son Adam's. The sharp smell of something burning dragged me back from my thoughts. I hurried over to the stove, scraping blackened eggs off the bottom of the pan. Breakfast almost ruined. I had been cooking the same meal every morning for 8 months now. Scrambled eggs with cheese melted just the way Adam liked them. The Kitley had its rhythm. The quiet bubbling of coffee, the crackle of bacon in the skillet, the low hum of a refrigerator older than Adam himself. It was a routine I had fallen into without thinking, a dance that made me feel useful. When he showed up on my doorstep with 2 suitcases, it had been different. "Lost my job," he said, his grin wide and sheepish, reminding me of when he was a boy, 7 years old and missing his front teeth. "Just need a couple weeks to get back on my feet, Dad." That was 238 days ago. But who's keeping track? I put his plate down on the same stretch of counter that had carried so many pieces of his life. His allowance money when he was in middle school, his college acceptance letter framed in my memory like a trophy, my signature on car loan papers when his credit wasn't good enough. The counter had turned into a shrine to every sacrifice I had made for him. I heard him shuffle down the stairs wearing those new pajamas I bought just last month. Designer brand, because he claimed he couldn't be seen in anything cheap. His hair was a mess, his eyes heavy from either lack of sleep or too much of whatever he'd been drinking the night before. I knew the answer would show up on my credit card bill soon enough. "Morning," I said, pouring him a glass of orange juice, not store-bought from a carton, fresh squeezed. He insisted it tasted better that way. He barely grunted, already glued to his phone. That phone had been on my family plan since the beginning, though I noticed it never seemed to buzz with job offers. Funny thing, it always lit up when his buddies were planning a night out. "Dad, I need to talk to you," he finally said. I knew that tone. It was never about gratitude, always a request, always a new demand. My shoulders tightened before he even finished. It had become automatic, like my body already knew what was coming. "The guys and I want to hit Vegas next weekend. Just a little trip, blow off some steam. Job searching wears a man down." I glanced at the neat stack of job applications I had printed for him, still untouched on the hall table. They had sat there so long they looked more like forgotten junk mail than the first step to responsibility. "Adam, we talked about this," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You promised you'd focus on finding work." "God, you just do not get it, do you?" he snapped. The shift was immediate, like a curtain dropping. The sleepy young man was gone, replaced by someone harder, meaner. "I am not some loser flipping burgers at McDonald's. I have standards, I have potential, but you just want me stuck here, rotting in this house right alongside you." And then came the words. The ones that clung to me long after breakfast had gone cold, long after the plate sat untouched. It was in that moment I understood. This was not really about Vegas. It was not even about jobs or money. It was about me and the man I had let my son turn into. "What do you mean I am holding you back?" My voice came out lower than I intended, but there was something different under it this time, something sharp, like a thread of patience about to snap. Adam tossed his phone onto the counter, making sure it landed with a dramatic little thud. He had that look, the one he wore whenever he wanted to remind me how misunderstood he thought he was. You really want me to spell it out? Fine, look at this place. His hand swept across the Kitlee. The same Kitlee I had renovated 3 years earlier, granite counters, stainless steel appliances, everything still gleaming like new. This, he said, this is your finish line. A small, boring life in the suburbs, but me, I am supposed to be bigger than all this. That word, boring, mediocre, cut deeper than he knew. It stayed there in the air, bitter and heavy. I worked 60 hours a week to pay for this so-called boring house, I said, steady but tight. I pulled double shifts so you could go to that expensive college you wanted so badly. Oh, here we go. He rolled his eyes, an old move I had seen since his teenage years, perfected like a skill. The martyr routine. I gave up everything for you, Adam. Guess what? Maybe I never asked you to. His words pulled memories I had tried to bury. The second mortgage I signed to cover tuition, the trips I canceled so bills could be paid, the old beater car I drove while he cruised in a newer Honda. $180,000 over 4 years. And yet on the day he graduated, I had been the proudest man alive, thinking it was all worth it. You are right, I admitted, and I could see the surprise flicker across his face. You never asked, but I did it anyway. Because that is what fathers do. They put everything they have into their kids' futures. Investment? Adam barked a laugh, but there was nothing kind in it. Is that what you call this? Control? You think because you paid for stuff I am supposed to belong to you? That I should just say thank you for living in your shadow? His shadow. My shadow. I searched his face, trying to find even a trace of the boy who once built Lego castles with me on Sunday mornings, the boy who used to crawl into my arms after a nightmare because he believed his dad could fix anything. I never wanted you trapped in my shadow, I said softly. I wanted to give you ground solid enough to stand on, to build your own life. Solid ground? His voice was sharp now, like glass breaking. This is not solid. This is quicksand. Every day I am stuck here. I sink deeper into this. He flicked his hand at everything around us, the Kitlee, the house, at me. And then his eyes shifted, his whole face hardening with something meaner. I knew that look. He was about to go for the kill. You want the truth? The real truth? I nodded, even though my gut begged me not to. You are a worthless father. Every screw-up in my life is because of you. If it were not for you, I would already be living like a real man. It hit me like fists, each word landing harder than the last. But worse than the words was the glint in his eyes, the almost gleeful satisfaction. As if this was the speech he had been rehearsing, just waiting for the right moment to deliver. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen, feeling something shift inside me. Cold, steady, almost peaceful. The whole Kitlee seemed different. The polished counters I had saved for, the appliances I had researched, the breakfast cooling untouched on the table. None of it looked like mine anymore. It all looked like a set at some stage where I no longer belonged. I am sorry, I whispered, then turned my back on him. I walked to the front door, lifted my keys from the hook, the same hook where Adam's car keys hung, the car I still sent payments on every month. Behind me, his voice followed, uncertain now, his bravado starting to crack. Dad? Hey, Dad, where are you going? We still need to figure out Vegas. I stepped outside and pulled the door shut behind me. Quietly, no slam, no drama. Because I finally understood. Some conversations are already finished, whether the other person knows it or not. I sat in my car long after I left the house, parked under the buzzing lights of Ralph's grocery store. The windshield showed me nothing but my own reflection in the dark glass, hands still trembling against the steering wheel. I must have looked like a man waiting for a verdict. Maybe I was. That parking lot became my hiding spot, a place where I could finally let the masks slip, where Adam's eyes could not follow me, where I did not have to pretend that everything was fine. Worthless father. The words would not leave me. They sat heavy in my chest, beating in time with my heart. I kept running it back, over and over, like maybe I had misheard him, maybe I had twisted the meaning in my head. But then I remembered his grin, the cruel little curl of satisfaction when he said it, and I knew there was no mistake. He meant it. Every damn word. I needed coffee, something hot, bitter, strong enough to burn that humiliation right out of me. Inside the store, I moved down the aisles in a daze, drifting past stacks of apples and bananas under sickly fluorescent lights. Everything looked wrong, too bright and too fake, like I was walking through a stage set instead of a real grocery store. That is when I heard it. A sound that used to follow me into my sleep when Adam was small. I want the robot. I want it now. A boy, 6 years old at most, was throwing a full-blown tantrum in the toy aisle. He hit the floor, flailing and kicking like his whole world had collapsed. His father just stood there, steady as stone, while the storm raged. "I know you want it, buddy," the man said, calm as can be. "But we came for groceries. You know the rule, no toys unless it is your birthday or Christmas." "But I need it. Please, I'll be good forever." The father didn't cave, didn't bribe, didn't offer false hope. He waited. He let the tantrum burn itself out like a fire running out of fuel. Then he reached down, took his boy's hand, and together they walked away. The child sniffled, but he followed. Just like that, it was over. I stood there, frozen, watching them disappear around the corner, and suddenly I was back in another time. Adam, at 5 years old, clutching a shiny new toy truck against his chest. "Thank you, Daddy. You are the best daddy in the whole universe." His face lit up like Christmas morning. He would hug me, kiss my cheek, brag to kids at the playground about his amazing dad who gave him everything he wanted. I had lived for that glow, for those thank yous that felt like proof I was doing something right. I kept chasing that feeling, buying him surprises for good grades, for doing chores, sometimes for no reason at all, just because it was Tuesday. Each smile was my gold medal, my confirmation that I was not my father. Because my father had been different. Military man, hard as nails. His lessons came wrapped in punishment, not gifts. "The world doesn't owe you a thing, boy," he would growl. "You earn it or you go without." I hated him for it, swore I would never raise my son in that cold shadow, so I went the other way. I poured out understanding, generosity, unconditional support, and in the process, I raised a 28-year-old man who looked me in the eye and called me worthless. I bought my coffee and sat down at one of those cheap plastic tables near the deli counter, the kind that always wobble no matter where you sit. For months, maybe years, I had been asking myself the wrong question. What does Adam need from me? How can I help him? But staring into that bitter coffee, I finally understood. The real question was harder, much harder. What was I going to stop giving him? The first spark came from my own living room. I had just come back from Ralph's, coffee still bitter on my tongue, my head buzzing with the decision I knew I had to make. I walked into the house, dropped my keys on the hook, and froze. Voices. Not just Adam's, another voice, higher, female, laughing in a way that felt out of place in my house. I moved up the stairs slowly, careful, the same way I used to sneak up years ago when Adam was a teenager, whispering into the phone past curfew. Back then, it had been innocent rebellion. This was different. This was my 28-year-old son in my house on my phone plan, laughing about me. "Yeah, he is completely pathetic," Adam was saying. His voice carried clear through the cracked door. "Sometimes I almost feel sorry for him, but he tries so hard, like he is desperate for my approval. It is honestly sad." The woman on the line giggled. "That is terrible, babe, but maybe kind of sweet. I mean, at least he cares." "Sweet?" Adam scoffed. "No, it is embarrassing. He makes me breakfast every morning like I am still 5 years old. He pays for everything because he thinks that is love. It is pathetic." I leaned against the wall in the hallway, pressing my back to the wallpaper like it could hold me up. Something inside my chest cracked. "My dad was a little like that after the divorce," the woman said, "always trying to buy me things so I would love him." "Exactly." Adam jumped in, eager. "And the worst part? He actually believes I am grateful. He thinks because he gives up his whole sad little life for me, I am supposed to worship him. But honestly, it just makes me respect him less." There was a pause on the line before she asked, "So, what are you going to do?" "I do not know. Keep letting him pay until I figure out my life, I guess. He wants to feel useful, right? I need the money. It works for both of us." "You were using your dad," she said, but she was laughing while she said it. "No," Adam replied quickly. "He is using me too, for purpose, for validation. What else does he have? His whole identity is being my father. If I did not need him, he would probably have nothing to live for." The cruelty in those words hit harder than I can explain. It was not just the admission of using me, I had already suspected that. It was how deliberate it all sounded. He had studied me, broken me down into pieces, and come up with a profile of a weak, pitiful man clinging to fatherhood as his only meaning in life. And the worst part, there was truth in it. That is when I heard my own voice, steady and clear, cutting through the air. Well, this is enlightening. Adam whipped around, his face drained of color, his phone slipping from his hand onto the carpet. Dad, How long were you? Long enough. I stepped inside. His room in my house filled with furniture I had bought, posters I had hung up years ago when I thought they would make him happy. Do not hang up on your friend. She might want to hear this too. Dad, please, I was just telling her the truth about your pathetic, desperate father, about how you bleed him dry while pretending he is a burden, about how you think his only reason to live is being your safety net. Adam opened and closed his mouth, searching for excuses, but none came. Here is the thing, Adam, I said, picking up his phone from the floor. The call was still live. She is right about one thing. I was using you too. For meaning, for validation, for purpose. I pressed the red button and ended the call. Then I set the phone down on his dresser, slow and deliberate, but not anymore. I looked him straight in the eye. You want to know what I am like when I stop being pathetic? The flicker of fear in his expression told me. For the first time in a long time, he was finally listening. The fear in Adam's eyes did not last. By morning, it was gone, replaced with something slicker, something I knew too well. He had slept on it, regrouped, and now he came back with his favorite trick, emotional manipulation disguised as righteous outrage. Dad, we need to talk. He cornered me in the kitli like a prosecutor about to deliver closing arguments. His voice carried that heavy note of wounded dignity, carefully measured. He even gave his shoulders a slight slump, made himself look smaller, vulnerable. The performance was polished. I had seen it 100 times before. I just had never admitted it to myself. I spread butter across a slice of toast, slow and steady, letting the silence stretch. The quiet seemed to make him itch. His fingers tapped against the countertop, the same nervous rhythm he had when he was 10 years old and waiting to be scolded. Back then, it made me soften, made me want to reassure him. Now I saw it for what it was. Strategy. What you did yesterday, he began, voice trembling just enough to seem sincere. Listening to my private conversation, that was a huge violation of my privacy. Privacy? I repeated. My tone was flat, almost bored. The way he flinched told me he heard the difference. Yes, privacy. I am an adult. You cannot just eavesdrop on me like I am some kind of criminal. His words were measured, calm, the reasonable act. It was the same tone that used to make me feel guilty for setting rules. He leaned in a little, trying to take back ground he had lost the night before. I know you are upset about what you heard, but you misunderstood. It was out of context. A cold sort of amusement twisted in my gut. Context. Please, explain the context where calling your father pathetic and bragging about using him for money sounds reasonable. Color rose in his cheeks. Not embarrassment, but anger at being cornered. The mask slipped. I was venting, okay? Everyone vents about their parents. It doesn't mean anything. You are twisting it, being manipulative. The irony of that almost made me laugh. Me, manipulative. Maybe he believed it. Maybe he needed to. Either way, I felt lighter, like I had finally seen the trick behind the magic show. You know what, Adam? You are right. I have been manipulative. I kept manipulating myself into thinking giving you everything was helping you. That ends now. What's that supposed to mean? There it was, the first real crack, his voice breaking under the weight of actual fear. I pulled my phone from my pocket and turned the screen toward him. It means I found some nice studio apartments downtown. Rent is pretty affordable, perfect for a man with your standards. The color drained out of his face. His hand twitched like he wanted to snatch the phone away. You are kicking me out? I am giving you exactly what you asked for, independence, the chance to live like a real man. His mouth opened. Panic came rushing in like water through a crack in a dam. Dad, you cannot be serious. How am I supposed to pay rent? I don't even have a job yet. Sounds like your problem, not mine. He stared at me as if I had slapped him. His jaw worked, but no sound came. For once in his life, my son was speechless. This is crazy, he managed finally. You are losing it. I'll tell Mom. She will stop you. Your mother, I repeated. Then I scrolled my contacts, pressed a name I had not called in months. Julia's voice came through on the third ring. Hey, Julia, it's me. Adam wants to talk to you about his living situation. I held the phone out toward him, watched the panic climb higher in his face. Go ahead. Tell her all about your pathetic father. He did not take the phone. Something had shifted in his eyes. The usual tricks were gone. He was looking at me like he did not recognize me. I set the phone down on the counter. Keep it. You will need it to call landlords. Maybe that girlfriend of yours from yesterday, too. Something tells me you're going to need a couch to crash on. I grabbed my keys from the hook by the door. Where are you going? He called, voice tight. To see a lawyer, I said. Turns out there are legal ways to help adult children who refuse to help themselves. The drive downtown felt unlike any drive I had taken in years. My hands were steady on the wheel, my breath even. For once, I was not racing to solve someone else's mess or second-guessing every word I had spoken. I was not rushing out of guilt. I was moving with purpose, towards something I wanted, not something I owed. Adam's voice still echoed in my head, the words from that overheard conversation circling like vultures. He thinks because he sacrifices his whole sad little life for me, I should worship him. The first time I'd heard them, they cut deep. Now they lit a different kind of fire in me. Cold, sharp, productive. He had asked to see what I was like when I stopped being pathetic. Well, today was his chance. Thomas Lee's office sat high in a downtown tower, all glass and granite, polished to a shine. The receptionist greeted me kindly, offering real coffee, not the instant sludge I had been brewing at home while stretching my budget to cover Adam's whims. Mr. Lee will see you now, she said, and led me past a hallway lined with framed degrees. His corner office looked exactly like I had imagined. Mahogany desk, leather chairs that cost more than my monthly mortgage, shelves of books that had clearly been read. Thomas stood to greet me, shorter than I remembered, with gray at his temples and glasses that whispered money without flaunting it. His handshake was firm, his gaze steady. For the first time in a long time, I felt respected just for showing up. You sounded different on the phone, he said once we sat down. Not bad different. Just focused. What's going on? So I told him. About the 8 months of temporary support that had become full-time dependency. About the escalating demands, the entitled tone. About the night I'd overheard my son dissecting me like some pathetic case study. Thomas's jaw tightened as I spoke. When I finished, he took off his glasses and cleaned them with sharp, angry motions. Jesus Christ, he muttered. How long has this been going on? The living under my roof part, months. The behavior? If I'm honest, years. I kept calling it support. Truth is, I was just enabling him. Saying it out loud felt like digging out a splinter that had been festering too long. Painful, but freeing. Thomas slid his glasses back on and studied me like he would a complex case file. You know what's striking? You're not asking how to fix things with him. You're asking how to end it. He was right. I was not there to patch things up. I was there to draw a line in stone. Is that wrong? I asked. Wrong? No. Late, maybe, he said. I see this all the time. Good parents who never stop parenting, even when their kids don't want it. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let them face their own choices. He pulled a thick folder from his drawer and set it down. Formal eviction. Entirely legal. You don't owe an adult child housing, especially one who's exploiting you. How does it work? 30-day notice. Serve it in person or by certified mail. If he refuses to leave, the court will enforce it. But think hard. There will be fallout. I thought about Adam, about his smirk when he'd called me pathetic, about the way he always tried to flip guilt onto me. I thought about the little boy who once hugged me tight and told playground kids I was the best dad in the universe. Thomas, I said quietly, if your son called you worthless to your face, then bragged about using you for money, what would you do? He didn't hesitate. I'd probably want to throw him off a bridge. I'm just throwing him out of my house. Fair enough. He slid the papers toward me. Sign here and it's done, but once you do, there's no going back. This will change everything. I picked up the pen. Heavy, substantial, the kind that made a statement just by holding it. Good, I said and signed. As I finished, my phone buzzed. A text from Adam. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. Can we talk when you get home? I want to make things right. I showed Thomas. He shook his head. Funny how they always find their manners when consequences are coming. On the drive back, the envelope sat on my passenger seat like a loaded weapon. For 28 years, I had feared disappointing my son. Now, I was almost eager to. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw him pacing in the living room window, phone pressed to his ear. Agitated, running his hand through his hair, already in crisis mode, probably calling for reinforcements. I sat in the car a moment, watching. I thought about that little boy who once waited by the same window for me to come home, who ran into my arms before I could take off my coat. When had he turned into this scheming stranger? Wrong question. The real one was simpler. When had I stopped being a father and become an enabler? I walked to the front door with the envelope in my hand. Adam ended his call as soon as he saw me. He sat on the couch, trying to look remorseful, but I could see the calculation in his eyes. "Dad," he said quickly, standing, his tone urgent. "I'm glad you're home. I was wrong, and I owe you a huge apology." I set my keys down, studying him. The clothes, the haircut, the phone, all of it bought with my money. "Do you?" I asked. "Yes," he said earnestly. "I was just venting to Lauren. I didn't mean it." "Lauren," I repeated. "That her name?" "Yeah, but it doesn't matter. What matters is I was wrong." He stepped closer, then froze when he saw something in my face. "Dad, you look different." "I feel different." I pulled the envelope from my jacket and set it on the table. "This is for you." His hands trembled as he opened it, eyes scanning the words. Confusion, shock, then fear. What is this? "It's a 30-day eviction notice, Adam. You've got a month to find another place." The papers slid from his hands. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious." "You can't just throw me out. I'm your son." "Exactly, and for 28 years I've tried to be your father. Somewhere along the way, I turned into your ATM. That ends now." His phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, torn. I nodded toward it. "Answer it. You're going to need help." The silence in that living room stretched out wide like a canyon. Adam stood frozen, the eviction notice lying in pieces at his feet, his face twisting through emotions like a busted slot machine. Shock, anger, panic, back to shock again. I just watched, detached, like I was studying an insect under glass. "You can't do this," he whispered finally. "I have nowhere to go. You've got 30 days to figure that out." "Dad, please." The act was gone now. No more charm, no more swagger, just desperation, stripped bare and ugly. "I'll change. I'll get a job. I'll pay you back every cent. I swear." For a heartbeat, something old stirred in me. The father instinct I had leaned on for nearly 3 decades. That little voice that begged me to give him one more chance, that maybe this time he really meant it. But then I remembered the smirk on his face when he'd called me pathetic, the way he'd dissected me like I was nothing but a joke for a girl on the other end of the phone. "You had 8 months to change, Adam," I said. "Hell, you had 28 years to be different. If this is where you've ended up, that's on you." His phone rang. He snatched it up, voice breaking as he answered. "Mom? Yeah, he's serious. He gave me papers. Legal papers." He looked at me with pure venom. "No, talking to him won't help. He's lost his mind." I stood, brushing imaginary lint from my pants. "I'm heading out. When I come back, pick those papers up off my floor. Where are you going?" "To live my life." I drove for an hour, no plan, no destination, just letting the road pull me forward. The city passed by like scenes from someone else's film, and I realized I couldn't even remember the last time I'd taken a drive that wasn't about Adam. Always his errands, his bills, his crises. By the time I pulled into the valet line of a boutique hotel downtown, I'd made my choice. Not just about Adam, about everything. "I'd like a room," I told the clerk at the desk. "Your best available for the weekend." "Of course, sir." "Cash or card?" "Card." My card, not the one Adam had drained, but my own private account, the one I'd been too cautious to touch while I was busy financing his lifestyle. "And tell me about your spa services. Room service, too. Anything that reminds a man what it feels like to enjoy his own money." The room had Egyptian cotton sheets, a marble bathroom, a view of the skyline from the 14th floor. I stood by the window, called my bank, and reported fraud. It was easier than I thought it would be. Cancel the cards, freeze the accounts, shut down the family phone plan. Every cord binding me to his comfort cut with a phone call and my social security number. My private phone, the one Adam didn't even know about, rang later that night. Somehow he'd gotten the number. I let it roll to voicemail. At 8 o'clock, Dad, my card's not working. Can you fix this? At 9, they said you canceled everything. That has to be a mistake. At 10, I can't buy gas or food. What am I supposed to do? At 11, you're sick. You need help. No father does this to his son. And finally, fine, I'll go to Mom. She'd never do something this cruel. I deleted them all without listening twice. Ordered steak, wine, dessert I didn't need. Ate every bite. By Saturday morning, there were a dozen more. I played them over Eggs Benedict and real orange juice that tasted like sunlight. His voice on those recordings sounded foreign to me now, like the voice of a stranger, not my son, a man who had never learned what consequences feel like. I spent the rest of the day walking the city like a free man. Bought a book because I liked the cover. Paid $5 for coffee because it was worth it. Tried on a shirt that actually fit and bought it without worrying if Adam needed sneakers. At some point, somewhere between the bookstore and the coffee shop, I realized what had changed. It wasn't Adam, it was me. For 28 years, my life had been about making his easier. Every sacrifice, every compromise, every dollar meant to smooth his road. Somewhere along the line, I had confused giving with loving. And in doing so, I had raised a man who thought love was just another transaction. That ended the moment I signed my name on that eviction notice. I wasn't Adam's ATM anymore. I wasn't his safety net. I wasn't his crutch. I was his father again. And sometimes the hardest thing a father can do, the most loving thing he can do, is finally say enough. Saturday night, my phone buzzed in the hotel bar. I was halfway through a glass of scotch that cost more than Adam's weekly allowance and reading a new book when her name lit up the screen. Julia. For a second, I almost let it ring out. Her name carried too much history. Julia at 25, laughing across a dinner table. Julia cradling newborn Adam in the hospital, whispering, "He's perfect." Julia 12 years later, suitcase in hand, her voice flat and clinical as she told me why she was leaving. I picked up anyway. "Hello, Julia. What the hell is wrong with you?" No greeting, no soft landing, just pure Julia. She had always preferred blunt confrontation over polite deflection. Back when I thought being loved meant taking every blow without complaint, I had admired that about her. "I'm fine, thanks for asking. How are you?" I kept my tone light, almost cheerful, taking another sip of my drink. The burn of the scotch felt good, real, immediate. "Don't play games with me. Adam called 3 hours ago, crying his eyes out, said you actually threw him out with legal papers." I could picture her, pacing her apartment in those old college slippers she never let go of, clutching her phone like a weapon. "I gave him 30 days notice. That's not throwing him out. It's giving him time." 30 days? Her voice cracked. "He's your son. He doesn't have money. He doesn't have a job. He's had 8 months to find one. He decided not to. He's been trying." "Julia." I set the glass down hard enough to hear the thud. "When's the last time he told you about a real interview, an application, anything concrete?" The pause was telling. I could almost hear her sifting through months of conversations, coming up empty. "He's networking, building connections." "Networking?" I nearly laughed. "That's what we're calling drinking with buddies now?" Because that's what his connections are. Guys who don't work either, who burn through my money while talking about how unfair life is. "You don't understand the job market these days. I understand it fine. I've worked through recessions, layoffs, rising costs, you name it. What I don't understand is how a college-educated 28-year-old can't manage to land a starter job. Starbucks would hire him tomorrow. He has a degree. He shouldn't have to flip burgers." There it was, the lie we'd both sold him, that he was too special for ordinary work, that self-esteem meant skipping the hard parts. "Julia, what was your first job?" "What is that? Humor me." "I worked retail at the mall, but that was different." "How? The economy was better then. There were more bullshit." The word slipped out sharp, but I didn't take it back. "You worked retail because you needed money and weren't too proud to earn it. When did we decide Adam was above that?" She went quiet, breathing heavy, just like she used to when she knew she was losing ground. Finally, she said softly, "He told me what he said to you, about calling you worthless. He feels awful." "Does he?" "Of course. He was upset, venting." "Julia, he wasn't venting to me. He was bragging to his girlfriend about using me, about how pathetic I am. He was laughing while I was downstairs making him breakfast." "You were eavesdropping?" I was walking past his room in my own house. My voice hardened. And what I heard was our son explaining how he manipulates me into financing his life. He called me pathetic. Not angry, not frustrated, pathetic, like I was some failed case study. Silence stretched across the line, heavy with years of denial finally cracking. Maybe, she whispered, uncertain now. Maybe he didn't mean it the way it sounded. He meant every word. And the worst part, he wasn't entirely wrong. Don't say that. I have been pathetic. I begged for his approval. I paid for his laziness. I mistook enabling for love. And I'm done. I never said you were weak. You didn't have to. My voice was calm now, steady, the kind of calm that comes when the truth finally clicks into place. You showed me every single day, in the way you looked at me, the way you argued with me, the way you finally walked out the door. You didn't need to call me weak, Julia. I lived weak, and you couldn't stand it. She was silent. I imagined her pacing slowing, the slippers dragging across her floor, the way she always did when she ran out of comebacks. And here's the thing, I went on, finishing my drink, letting the ice clink against the glass. I'm not that man anymore. The man you married would have folded the second for a second Adam started crying. He would have apologized, paid another bill, cooked another breakfast, and called it fatherhood. But I've finally figured something out. What? Her voice was small, almost childlike. Respect matters more than love. Without respect, love rots. It turns into pity, obligation, resentment. That's what happened with you. That's what's been happening with Adam. I kept confusing fear with devotion, giving with loving, enabling with parenting, she sniffled. He's still our son. He is. And that's why I'm doing this. Because if I don't stop now, if I keep bailing him out, he'll still be 38 and blaming us. He'll still be 48 and waiting for someone else to pay his rent. He'll never learn what it means to stand on his own. You're gambling with his life. No, I said softly. I'm finally giving him his life back. What he does with it, that's on him. I stood from the bar stool, yet tossed some bills onto the counter. You wanted me to fight for something, Julia. Well, here it is. I'm fighting for my own dignity, and maybe, just maybe, for Adam's chance at becoming a man. There was nothing but her ragged breathing on the line. Good night, Julia. I ended the call before she could answer, slid the phone into my pocket, and walked back toward the hotel elevators. For the first time in decades, I wasn't afraid of my ex-wife's tears, and I wasn't afraid of my son's anger. I wasn't afraid at all. You didn't have to say it. You showed it every time you rolled your eyes when I tried to set boundaries, every time you undercut my authority about Adam, every time you put his comfort above my role as a parent. I was protecting him. From what? From learning that choices come with consequences? From understanding that respect isn't free? From realizing that his happiness isn't someone else's responsibility? I was protecting him from being hurt. And look how that turned out. We shielded him from every little bump, every disappointment, every natural consequence, and now he's a grown man who thinks the world owes him a living and calls his father worthless when reality tells him otherwise. The silence dragged so long I thought she'd hung up. I don't know how to fix this, she whispered. You can't fix it, Julia. Neither can I. The only person who can fix Adam is Adam, and that won't happen as long as we keep rescuing him from himself. But what if? What if he has to work at McDonald's to cover rent? What if he ends up with roommates in some rundown apartment? What if he has to do his own laundry, cook his own meals, figure out adulthood without a safety net? Yes, what if all of that? Then maybe he'll finally learn what it means to be a man instead of an overgrown child. Another pause, heavier this time. You really think he can do it? She asked. For the first time all conversation, her voice carried something new, something almost like hope. I think he's capable of more than we've ever demanded from him, but he'll never discover that as long as we keep treating him like a helpless kid. And if he fails, then he fails. That's his right. Adults have the right to fail. I heard her crying again, but this time it wasn't the sharp, manipulative crying I remembered from our marriage. It sounded like grief. When did we go so wrong? When we decided our job was to make him happy instead of making him strong. I just wanted him to have everything we didn't. I know, but somewhere along the way we forgot that struggle builds character, that disappointment teaches resilience, that working for something makes it worth having in a way handouts never can. So what happens now? Now Adam learns what every adult learns sooner or later, that nobody owes you comfort just because you exist. And us? There is no us, Julia. Hasn't been for 12 years. But maybe if we're lucky, someday we'll have a son we can be proud of instead of one we have to keep making excuses for. You're different, she said finally. Yes, I am. I'm not sure I like this version of you. That's okay. I do. I ended the call and powered off my phone, lighter than I'd felt in decades. Sunday morning, I extended my hotel stay another night, then another. By Wednesday, I'd been gone 5 days, eating room service, sleeping without interruptions, living with a peace I hadn't known in years. When I finally went home, the house felt cleansed. The Kitley counter was clear. No dishes, no chargers, none of the debris of an entitled adult child. On the coffee table sat a note written on hotel stationery. From the Marriott, he'd been staying there until the credit cards stopped working. Dad, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I was wrong. About everything. I want to make this right, but I need your help. Please call me. I love you. Adam, I read it twice, searching for manipulation. But what I saw looked like the handwriting of a frightened young man finally beginning to taste what consequences felt like. I folded the note and slipped it into my pocket. Then I opened my laptop and booked a trip to Scotland. 3 weeks in the Highlands, something I'd always wanted but never dared because there was always some emergency at home. This time, the ticket was non-refundable. Adam would have to figure things out without me. For the first time in his adult life, my son was going to learn how to live like a man. And for the first time in mine, I was going to live like one too. If you enjoyed this story, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. And when you're ready for the next story, just click the box on the left. Thanks for watching.